Blessings and welcome forward to Reasons Right to Your Life. I'm your host, the Great Owl, in the presence of my co-host, Brother Ramon Singh. Perfect love. Perfect love. Yes, brethren and sisters, here we are once again, from the beautiful Hope Gardens in Jamaica. And this particular offering, well, I think the current set of offerings we're going to be dealing with, I think one or two of them is going to be a little bit, professional, entrepreneurial, and business oriented. We do these videos and our channel is dynamic because people of faith have to provide for ourselves. We have to make a living. We have to be able to provide for the families, for those who have a family, and provide for ourselves as individuals. That being said, a lot of the information that we know we offer along some of the historical lines or the business acumen or advice line might not necessarily be the most popular, but we find it necessary to be leaders or even a group of interested individuals who wants to promote a wholesome view of communal businesses, community, and the faith. And the topic that we're going to be talking about, we're not necessarily going to be starting out just on the business angle, but we're going to come to it because it is a very serious topic. However, I think many people aren't speaking about it. And I'm introducing this topic knowing that it's not something that we are talking about, and I'm giving that as a precursor to what I'm going to say because I want you to take a breath and understand that I really believe what I'm going to talk about is necessary, but it might come strange to some of you. So what is it? What I'm going to talk about is death insurance or some form of fund that is contributed to during our lifetimes that is for our deceased loved ones. Is that clear? Okay, so I can get started. As a black so-called Jamaican, but you want to call me Rasta, Hebrew, Christian, whatever the opinions of my deportment, my behavior, or how you view me as a being, or how you view others like me as beings. We live and we die. We live and we die within the construct and the constraints and the confines of the societies we live in, irregardless of our belief systems or religious views. What is common amongst us is untimely death, Brother Singh. What is also common amongst us is the inability of families to lay their loved ones to rest appropriately because of this untimely death and the lack of resources. It's so scary, nobody wants to talk about it, but I've had it. I've had it with it. I'm tired of hearing, and I'm not accusing nobody of foul play. Stay with me. I'm tired of hearing we need a GoFundMe campaign for this Rastafari elder, for this singer, for this artist, for this individual, because her family is unable to take care of funeral costs. It's cheaper to live, the joke goes, more expensive to die. Everything is business. Because everything is business, the undertaker does not care about the bereaving loved ones. It is transposed into a system of monetary gain. Now you might be saying, what sparked this? I might not want to share what sparked it, but trust me, it has come from real experience, and I'm protecting those who've been through the experience. I won't say, but it's close. Seeing this particular individual so close to me that I love, running back and forth between government, organization, institution, between coroner, between hospital, between police, between funeral parlors, between the people who do the autopsy, right? Between the medical examiner, right? Back and forth. All these things cost resources. Money, 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 money. Money to store body. Money to dress and care for body. To dress and prepare body for a funeral. money for hearse, money for casket, money, 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 money. Here in Jamaica, bodies stay on ice. And I'm sorry for saying it this way, for months, hallelujah, years sometimes. Many cannot go for their loved ones because of the cost, and they end up being buried in unmarked graves, in nondescript box, in the almshouse and the poor cemeteries across our country without dignity and honor, knowing that humans do not part with their loved ones like this. Well, the first thing I have to say is this. We say bodies, we say dead, and those terms are truthful, but a past deceased or a transitioned loved one is not a dead, hallelujah. I don't care what language you want to use, and it's your business. They're not a dead. That's her husband. That's his wife. That's his daughter. That's his son. That's her son. That's her brother. That's her cousin. And though it's a business for you, and you're just working to get your payment, you are benefiting from the bereavement of others. So your insensitivity about, oh, you need this paperwork, and you know it costs 200 US, $40, 5,000 Jamaican, 25,000, 40,000, 100,000. You know that. And you take it for granted because you're gaining while they're hurting and suffering. We need some form of death insurance for us Aboriginal and so-called black people that can take care of the funeral costs when we are deceased. We need a transition or past loved one fund, deceased loved one fund, that every member of the family can contribute towards. And when a family member dies, they don't have to be embarrassed by these campaigns for money, or the embarrassment they have to go through begging other family members who have axe to grind, images to protect, attitudes to offend or to promote. We need to address this because it's bringing great dishonor, Brother Singh.
Yes, brother, great old brother, second cousin, who would I call my auntie or second mother, because she helped grow me up, you know. So I call her auntie when we live with her. Was my second cousin.
Yes.
You know, that's my grand aunt's daughter.
Okay.
You see me? And she had to bury her mother and find the funds because her mother didn't have life insurance. So now my auntie, you know, she sell life insurance policies for a living. How that they transform her life. Like she realized Jamaicans no realize the needs of when somebody die, you know? Like what you really need and the resources. You know? Sometimes up to $1 million in Jamaican, $2 million, you know? Just to cover everything.
Yes.
And she sell policies for people for say when them dead, them everything is taken care of.
Yes.
And the family will get a thing in as well.
Yes.
You know? So if the wife get left behind, something there for the wife to help take care of herself as well as take care of the funeral.
Yes.
You know? And responsible people take out life insurance, you know, policies. Because you have different type of policies too, you know. But that are people who can afford it.
Yes.
Because it's a monthly payment or whatever you do it like every 3 months, every 6 months, every year, you know.
So
but it's a payment. We have to find money. Because you're basically saving up for your debt. It's a saving plan for your debt.
For after you transition.
Yeah, so you don't have to put no burden on nobody else when you pass. So you say, okay, this person have them policy, and you go and the relative now will claim the policy and take care of all arrangements.
Yes. Yes. It's interesting that we know that there is life insurance, and the reason why I said death insurance is because, you know, within life insurance there's this notion of wrongful death or a premature death by some means that maybe is connected to procuring the proceeds of the insurance package, right? But I especially went to death insurance because it specifically is about funeral costs and expenses. Now, planning to be able to provide for your family after your transition has already well been understood in terms of the design and the outlay of a modern family. So I'm not necessarily structuring it around the understanding of what life insurance is, though it does come under the ambits of what I'm talking about, because why I'm saying specifically death insurance, whether or not someone who can go and say, Jerome, actually there is such a thing as death insurance, right? Understand what I am aiming at. There might not be the exact language towards what I'm saying. And even if there is, I'm trying to bring the understanding to people to realize that when people transition, whether you think, you're going to go when you're 50 or 80 years old or 90, there's no actual way of knowing when you'll go. And as with most things, you have to plan it as a lifestyle choice. So I said deceased loved ones fund for a reason, and I said death insurance for a reason because I wanted to give some allusion to the idea of life insurance, but I didn't want the word life in it. I wanted specifically to know is when you die, not by wrongful means or by any perverse means to collect money, but untimely death. And the fact is, you literally now have a bill of $1 million that you got to take care of for this person to be laid to rest. You got so much things you as an individual got to do. And what I know as a culture in Jamaica is that you got to go around to your family and beg, 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 beg. And sometimes the member that is deceased might not have the approval of all members of the family, and hence won't necessarily just accrue favor. And so at certain levels, it causes rifts in families because people don't feel like they should contribute to a good funeral. People say you're not good enough for it. So I'm suggesting a change in attitude to whether or not you want to literally go to a bank as a family or as 3 or 4 responsible members of a family and open an account in the names of those senior members of the family. And so me at 21 coming to a consciousness of self can go when I have a 5,000 Jamaican or a 20,000 and put into the account. My cousin Elaine can do it. My sister can do it. My auntie can do it. My cousin can do it. This does not have to be under the ambits of an insurance, hallelujah, scheme. It's just a fund, an account, where you can go and put on some money that you might have only put 50,000 in, and your funeral might go and cost $1 million. But the fact that you put 50,000 in means that you're in the pool. Means that your money is added to the money of other members of the family. And bearing some great disaster, I don't think every member of the family is going to be dying every day, every week, every month, every year. So I'm saying if it is a family fund, let's say 20 members of the family contributing over a period of maybe 30 years, you might have 1 or 2 deaths. Does that seem to make sense mathematically? No? You might have 1 or 2 deaths, right, within those 20 or so years, maybe 2 or 3 unforeseen ones, right? It should be able to cover it. And if it is a culture of us doing that, then naturally we'll be able to bury our loved ones with some dignity. And that's what I'm talking about. I know there's policies out there, so don't get it twisted. So I'm appealing to you because it's coming from a genuine place. We as, let's call it what it is, black people, right? I know the terminologies, I know legally it's not a statement, but let's call it the way we know it, right? Let's cut all the chases. Forget about the differences in belief systems. As black folks, we have a terrible record of laying our dead to rest. Hallelujah. We think more about a party, an image game, a show off, than actually a dignified send-off of our loved ones. We think more about that last moment of the great hurrah than their children that's going to be living. As he mentioned, their loved ones that's going to continue, his wife, right? Her husband and kids. We don't tend to think about that as being connected to their transition. It's not just a sorrow, it's an economic loss. And so if you prepare for the economic loss, we know the middle and the upper class, they've got life insurance. You know someone wasn't talking about you. Hey, somehow you knew I wasn't talking about you. I'm talking about the majority of us. Majority of us. The highest we have is a bank account. Hey, I'm one, so I'm not even tripping. The most I have is a bank account. That's all I have. I don't have insurance. I don't have any kind of protection that if something should happen to me. Do you understand? So I transitioning right now. Let's be clear about it. Let's put myself in there before I even go anywhere. My parents cannot afford my burial right now. Hey, where it all cost? They couldn't afford it. And what do you want to say? I beg them would have to go beg. Other family members, hey, right? Because you are the wealthy amongst us, everybody ain't poor. But I'm talking about me specifically, where I am in the context. I beg would have to go beg other members of the family. And sisters would have to chip in, and so would have to chip in for us to be laid, for me to be laid to rest. Right? And this has always been the issue with us. And if we just take a proactive approach to it and start at least being less afraid of death and realizing that untimely death does happen, and the only way you can prepare for that eventuality, if it should happen, when it happens, is to do it before it happens. You can't do it after it's happened. So while you are yet healthy and strong, consider talking to the senior conscious member of your families about this. For real, sit and have a discussion. And I'm sure some proactive family have had these discussions. So if you are one of those proactive families, I say kudos to you. I mean, you know, it might take some commercial ventures to get people to understand it. You know, you might need to kind of get it public to, you know, you might actually have a funeral home. I'm not going to be tripping because we're talking about deceased loved ones, right? We're talking about laying them to rest. You might actually have a funeral home. You might actually have that funeral services, undertaker services, so you understand, but not just business, you understand the emotional loss and the need for dignity. And so if that is the case, I would say make your stuff a little bit more public and don't be afraid of us black folks. We're kind of scaredy cats about certain things, but we know what's up, Brother Singh.
Yes, Brother Greatal. I recall my uncle. He died when I was in high school. You know, so I was about 16, you know. And the family members that were supposed to attend the autopsy couldn't come, but they needed family members, you know. And I was nearby.
Yes, Brother Singh, so you were telling us about your uncle that had passed on when you were in your teenage years.
Yes, yeah man. So I was nearby and they asked me to attend, you know, along with my auntie, my second cousin, because I used to live with her. You know, and we went and see them cut him up, you know. Cut open him chest, cut off him ribs, open up him chest, you know, and take out the organs and examine them. You know, my uncle used to lift me up on his shoulder when he see me, because he's a strong man, you know, and I will shake my hand with a firm grip.
Wow.
I say, you're getting strong, man, you know. So from a little boy, I do it to that. Yeah. When we get big numbers, I say, uncle, yeah. And he say, oh, you're strong, man, you know. Man, so we can see that part there because of experience. We never know say them things they go on in an autopsy, you know, and family member have to present. So imagine if you know somebody who you love so much and you have to see them get cut up on a board, on a table, you know. Yeah. So it's like me, from me see that, like me I say, Jaja, you know, and that's gonna happen to me, you know. So me I say, oh, it's like from there so me just say, all right, that have to happen. to everybody. And you might get cut up on a table just like this. You know? And there's no say it will come. Prepare for it.
You know, as I hear you talk about that, it goes against everything that I believe in, you know. Hallelujah, because I believe that no one should put a knife upon the human body, especially after death. So I believe that it's sacrilege, right? Complete sacrilege. And so therefore, no medical statement can change my mind. Call me the religious fanatic, but that is unequivocally my belief. Now, number one, desecration of a human being for a corporation style view of human life is corruptible. Now, you can say, well, we have to know the cause of death. Causality of life and death within the realms of what we call reality. You know, causality, cause and effect. There obviously must be a reason why an individual is deceased. Would that be accidental, deliberate, or whatever? That as being a legal requirement, I have no problem with saying, well, you know, Jerome, he choked on a bone or whatever, and he died, or somebody shot him, or whatever, no problem. To go and cut open my deceased being, sacrilege. Sacrilege. Under no circumstances will I ever allow my body to be cut. And if I can die away from the masses in a cave where they'll never find me, then that is where I'll go. Because I am saying it publicly, I'm declaring it sacrilegious to cut a deceased individual. And I don't care who wants to comment medically, right? That is no. Because of how we treat our deceased loved ones. I told you, dead and body being one of the most famous ones, right? The body, dead body. Desensitizing of the loved ones, the person who's hurting. And you mean to tell me you're going to want to expose me to your blasphemous, sacrilegious activity? Desecration? You're going to expose someone who's hurting to that and tell me, oh, this is medical? You're sick. So, this is coming from the spirit of those who are lost in the translation, those who don't understand that our very lives are controlled by others. And if while you're alive, you don't make a declaration, you will end up on somebody's table. And somebody will say, we're all ending up on a table. Do you think so? Do you think everybody ends up on a table? Do you not know the right of your personage as a sovereign being? I bet you don't know that. I bet, hallelujah, don't also know that under your religious rights, if you're not a ward of the state, if you're not a chattel or property, that you have a right as a sovereign being to decide your own destiny. And that means how you are treated after you pass on. And also, do you know that most of who is called the powerful in our society, that has the status of power, the titles of power, and the labels of power, you cannot just do as thou wilt with them? Did you know that? It is only the poorest amongst us suffer the experimentation of these medical individuals, are under these forced creeds that weren't started from our culture. They didn't come from our view of what is right. They are not our Hebraic rights or Hebrew rights of passage after a person's deceased. Because first of all, I know from I was 13 years old how I should be buried. Hey, the Spirit told me. Hebrew, what you would call a Jewish burial, right? Wrapped in swaddling bandages, or what you call the swaddling cloth, right? I could never be immersed in fire, could never be cremated. So if that should happen to me in this life, that is an evil that has come against me. And if at some point I should be deceased and I have not left money to bury myself in the manner that I should be, and you should hear that my body is on ice for 2 months, or rest assured, that's an attack against me. Rest assured, I'm telling you that. It's only when you're alive, now trust me, yes brother,
Seala.
that's an attack. So rest assured, when you're alive is when you're supposed to set your rights in order. That is the rites of your passage after you've transitioned. You cannot make it, hallelujah, after you've died. You got to start thinking about it now. And it might be enacted 50 years from now, 80 years from now. But if you have grown with that, putting something down, it might be your son that's going to pass before you. It might be your grandson. But if we start a function of doing something and passing that gnosis onto our children, that knowledge onto our children, then we will transition with dignity, and we would clean the graveyards that our ancestors are lying in. We'd start having some respect and not allowing them to be crowd-funded for their burial. That everybody have it to say, you're of no value, and you know how we are as living beings. So when we transition, you must retain our dignity, because it reflects on you. It's you who they're laughing at. It's us who they're laughing at, right? Until their time comes. And now they're embarrassed because they have to put up GoFundMe for their transition loved one. So hurtful. A lot of what I've said here you will not agree with, and some you will. But see where I'm coming from. Feel where I'm coming from. Feel and know how much it has depraved us. Literally it has. That's why we have no dignity of our living persons, right? Because the moment a person transitions, the pain it stirs up is not just emotional. It's a big economic pain, a big deficit. And it's on two fronts, because now that person no longer is able to earn for the family, for their loved ones. And even if they were earning or they had something, it now has to be transposed to what? To laying them to rest. So, if there is none, just imagine, if there is none, you do not have an account, you do not have a little thing put down specifically, it's going to drain your family's emotional strength, financial strength. It's just a constant hurt. So better we address it slowly. Over time, we'll be in the right position. Because I rest assured, I know other ethnicities, not to throw anything on us because of that, but I'm sure other ethnicities do not approach it this way if they have the choice and the option, which most times they have a culture to support their lack of choice. They have no choice. They have to do something collectively for the welfare of their loved ones. Brother Singh, before we transition out of here.
Yes, Brother Great Owl. Man, because with the reason early on, where I say people don't really think about their passing, as in young people. Only elderly people who are well grey and sick, and then we say, well, my might so dead now. When we think about my passing and you know how it going to affect others when I pass. That is when them start set things in order. But young people like us now, you know, like middle age, we're there in our prime. That was why I said at Jamaica, you know. We just are reaching our prime. We not think about that. We not think about setting things in place for funeral. And, you know, I set money aside for a casket, you know. We not really, no, we not think about that. We are thinking about life, moving forward.
Future.
You know, setting down a legacy for our children, something for our children for come on, you know, so them not go suffer.
Yes.
And that Jamaicans usually say, you know.
Yeah, for real, for real.
Want to put things in place so my children not suffer and go through what me go through.
Sure.
Them want life look better for them children.
Progressive mindset.
So them will try, you know. I'll try left a legacy for them, man. For say. But you know, have spoiled children.
Hallelujah.
We're going to just take your inheritance and don't care about it and just waste away them time and your business.
True.
Our legacy
Your
away.
investments, yeah.
You know? So even my grandfather, him set things in place to say, because Fim father acquired the land, you know, and said this land shall not be sold. It shall be for his children, children's children, you know? And the same thing my grandfather said. And the same thing me come back and I say, none of this land shall be sold. it shall be for my children and children's children to come.
Yes, sir.
You see me? We have to set down a legacy.
Descendability.
Yeah, something for them come and say, well, we have land where grandpa left. You know, we can't make one of the fathers go sell off the land.
Hallelujah.
And then nothing left for the picnic them for years to come. You see me? So we have to set things in place. We have to think about generations
Absolutely.
to come. The seed will come out of we have to make sure we set things in place for them.
They say they're for real, brother Singh.
And not put no burden on them.
Yes.
You know, your family. Yeah, no put no burden on your family or your friends or whoever, loved ones around you. No put no burden upon nobody. Think about certain things, man, and set things in place, you know? Because even where reason say, John, one of our virgin passed away a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. Young youth like we.
Yes, yes.
You know? Have a baby on the way, and him could even see him baby.
He had two and one on the way.
Yeah, man. And him not think about death. Him just there in him prime, as in music career, they go blast off.
That's where he was.
Not think about funeral service. Him a think about how him go host the event. Yes. You know?
Hallelujah.
Him a go deal with him album.
Yes.
And them things that they on him mind. You know, as a young man. But we have to set things in place from now. So when time come, you not gonna have no burden to nobody. It's a blessing you're gonna be.
Absolutely.
When you push out now, you're gonna say, people are gonna say, John, oh, look how him set up them things in place for everybody, man. They follow a proper will. Mm-hmm. Even remember cousin Ray, mm-hmm. They like the little pants. Yes. And he send the pants go get cousin.
Yes, yes.
You know?
Means they must consider it.
Yeah.
Means you consider these things. I mean, I think most of us, they will say, it's a joke, so don't get me wrong. They say, you know, when most people die, they leave a will. When black people die, they leave a bill.
Yeah.
And so it's like you are leaving generational debts for your children to pay off. Mm-hmm. So it's like literally, if you're putting a cent down, putting a dollar down, making the plans like you're saying, it's actually going to be benefiting your generation. So it's actually a good thing to do. Because when my brethren passed on, it brought up that you were talking about the fact that we're not thinking that way. We're not thinking that this is going to be us or a possibility that it could be us. We're thinking that we're leaving a legacy for children to come, and we're going to be building that legacy along with them. So when he transitioned, number one, he and his baby mother was talking previously to that about like how he'd want to be laid to rest. Yeah, interestingly, he had done that. But the other thing is, well, when he transitioned, because they weren't married, and this is something we have to mention, because they weren't married, guess what happened? The family, I think they had the authority of what is called the next of kin. And you might think it's not important. It's very important if it's in the situation of a marriage or a relationship, because the next of kin has the right to say, well, we're going to cremate him, or we're going to do a Christian ceremony, but he was Rasta and he was Orthodox, and he wanted an Orthodox ceremony. He didn't want to be committed under a spiritual system in a manner that he did not agree with. But that power of next of kin meant that the family decided, not his baby mama who he lived with, hallelujah, right? And I'm saying that for a reason. It was evident that time, if you do not define how you want to be laid to rest, what is your spiritual belief about your life and about transition, you will be sucked into the system that is led by those around you who has the strongest belief in how you should be laid to rest. You should be put on ice for 3 weeks, 2 months, until the family gather up the little chupans and the little money, and then now we can go pay for the morgue and pay for the undertaker, the coroner, and pay for the dead house, and we try to use all the language that we're familiar with, right? Before we can, and get the pastor to come and officiate the church, and sometimes we didn't even go to the church, but we have money.
Yeah, food feed the people.
Repast, yes, night, set up.
Yeah, they have to go dig grave, pay a man for dig grave, cement not cheap.
I remember we have a culture that sometimes we have singing and drinking sometimes up until the point of when we're going to lay the person to rest. So that means that you're going to have to provide each of those persons who come there to keep you company with resources, right? And I heard that the tradition was, because it was a community event, the transition and the life of an individual, that it was known that people would bring what they had as a silent reality, nothing to be, our generation of the post, to be posting with your mouth, a gram. It's nothing to be talked about. You're supposed to come and quietly give what you have to the family of the deceased ones, because you are a living being who is a part of the community who is going to die as well. And your family also will need that investment in cash and in kind return on your transition. So we actually have the culture. I'm just reminding people of it. I'm not introducing nothing new. The language might be specific to me, what I'm saying, but as I say, feel and understand what I'm saying. We're not saying that there are no framework around. I'm saying it's lacking. It's grossly lacking, and the mentality is so limited that a person not going to think about that in their 20s or in their 30s. Yet still, a lot of 20-year-olds make up those who have transitioned. Hallelujah. A lot of 30-year-olds make up those who are untimely passing. Right? So as we go deep into this, we don't want to go too much, but we want to go deep enough to let you understand where we're coming from. That we really do need some form of death insurance, some form of deceased loved one fund that really helps or be able to cover all the funeral costs, the transitionary costs, to deal with all of the paperwork you got to do, all the grave you got to dig, the this you got to do, the people you got to pay, all of the financial costs, because we know that there's an emotional cost. We're talking about the financial cost. Have this fund that you can able to contribute to and be able to benefit from at the point of your transition, and to some degree be able to even help your children like the life insurance policies would as well, and help your family beyond that, unfortunate, untimely passing. Anything you want to say, Brother Singh, before we transition out of here?
Yeah, man. When we analyze the life insurance policy, we realize that if you actually save a little thing every month, create an account or something. Because if you are going to pay a business, because this business have to make money somehow,
It's a business.
So they might take money from you. But basically just have a savings plan if you're not into life insurance policies like that, And cause like me is a natural man, I mean, I like when system come with them cunning.
Indemnity plans.
Yeah, man, and them a try.
I'm sorry.
Them always a take from black man and keep things from black man, you see me? I ring out the black man dry.
Yes.
So if me see them think they're going unfair business.
Yeah, unfair practices.
I say, take out a new account and say, this is my insurance policy for myself. And just go and save towards that. Make your loved ones aware of it.
Yes. Hallelujah.
And probably add them to that account.
Yes,
so when you push out, them can just come and boom bam,
Yes.
Other than if say you give business money,
yes,
and you end up say them basically thief your money away from you before you're dead.
Because premiums change.
Yeah, man.
Premiums appreciate and depreciate, but they appreciate over time because it costs more to cover you, under the plan. And you have to constantly be renegotiating your insurance policy. And again, because there was a business aspect to it, we want to go, but we can't go because there's a lot to talk about. There's a business aspect to it that I did say it was a business, but I didn't want to approach it from their structured understanding and analysis of our bereavement, because it's a business to them. That's why I'm saying the deceased loved ones fund, because I don't think an individual per se, short of being very successful, can contribute enough to their own transitional fund. I don't think so, unless they are very successful. So I do believe it is a family-oriented venture that should take place, and I think it should be among senior members of the family that can be trusted to not embezzle the money or use the money, just like when you have family that owns property in a trust and somebody borrow against the trust. And that's distrust. So I don't want a situation like that, notwithstanding that some of that will happen, but if we have a culture of us taking it in our own arms for the dignity, and that's what I wanted to be clear, for the dignity of our people, so that we don't do the, oh, this artist just passed, because I'm an artist, so I can relate to that strongly. This artist, musician, someone that we have grown up listening to his music or to his oratory, and then upon his transition we are hearing his family cannot lay him to rest appropriately. They do not have the right financial options or resources to do that. It's hurtful. And it makes you think undignified thoughts about such a person, because your statement go, so him do all of him life. So him do same couldn't pronounce it, so that the man didn't buy no money. And it shows up our exploitation, brother Singh. It shows up on so much level of how much, as artists, we are a part of these cultures, we're a part of the records, because they say it's a record, that means it's recorded. But yet still, even though it's recorded now, and it's known that we're on that record, we somehow seem to, over a record number of years, be unable to be on a record as earning anything from these records to be able to pay for our transition, right? However, several families within the higher echelons, they're fed, they're clothed, and they're well transitioned off of the blood, sweat, and tears of so much of our brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers. But in this ward serfdom state, it's admissible. They cut you when they feel like. They tell you need to go over here and spend this money to do this. Yeah, come back over here so that this guy can be paid. Go back over there so that guy can be paid. Go back over there so all their friends can be taken care of. And it's all at your expense while you're hurting and missing the actual presence of your loved one. And they call them body, you can't stop me, and they call them dead. All terms that removes your emotional connection. How can the finality of a person's life be the judge of their life? I spent 40 years with you. I was married to you for 50 years. Death is one moment. How can you take one moment and say it represents everything that we've shared? Utter nonsense. But they're weak in that moment. They're hurt in that moment. And they're referring to who you love, in whom you have your love expressed, who is no longer in the living space with you as they were the day before, or a week before, or a moment before, but they're still there. You can't tell me that's a body. That's who I love. That's who has loved and cared, hallelujah, for me. And while you're benefiting from my pain and my suffering, and it's a business venture, I'm appealing to the souls of those of us who are constantly being embarrassed, constantly being hurt, and constantly hiding away because some of the bodies get left on ice. Some of the beings get left on ice. You get it? Some of your loved ones, our loved ones, cannot be laid to rest. Imagine what a travesty. They're there months, years, in a foreign place. You don't know this place. You never lived here. You know nothing about, but you're in a little box and you're frozen on ice. Yeah? And you are not going there to say hi, hello to a frozen sickle. No. Because the memories you have of that person is warm and living. And they're trying to force upon you that icicle box ideology. It's a body. It's dead. They want to do anything they want with it. It's not right. So it's only us who are living can stand up for those who are not living until we ourselves become them who are not living. So that's what we need to consider. So on this journey, please remember that it is an economic cost at the transition of your life or any life. So in as much as we are putting something down for the future, that transition deserves some attention as well too. And preparing for it is a certainty. So not being scared about it would be beneficial, right? Mm-hmm. And knowing that also, when a loved one has transitioned, there will be these gullible, senseless individuals who's going to come and peddle plans in front of you. This is the 240,000 plan. This is the 500,000 plan. This is the this, and this is the cheap. This is, you understand me? With no sensitivity at all. So if you're in that position right now, and you're thinking like I'm thinking, this current loved one might be lost in that translation, but you are here, and it's only in the living you can make that decision. So now you need to start make that decision. Put something down. Get a piece of family lot. Yeah? Get your family plot. Understand these laws that it relates to birth, death, and marriage. Understand these laws, because it's different for a servant, a subject, and different for a naturalized, natural man, and it's different from a sovereign citizen. So understand where you are. Understand why they want to do things to you against the true nature of your being. What have you signed over onto? Right? Remember, to cut your organs out in first world countries, you have to sign a donor card. So certain things you just cannot do without knowing why it's being done. So these things you need to start spending some time thinking about, so that we can start laying our deceased loved ones to rest in the true dignity, hallelujah, that they deserve. So until next time, this has been a great hour. Yeah, in the presence of my co-host, Brother Ramon Singh, we're just reasoning about true transition and what it takes to be covered financially during these transitions. So until next time, like, share, subscribe to Tree Life Experience, yeah, right here on Seala Media. Perfect love.
Perfect love.
See.